chit chat. Better stay up out the way, don't get your issues splat. Stop letting issues slide and get your lick back. And get your lick back. I feel like I'm JX. J-Way. I'm a perfectionist. Adderall got me restless. I'm gone. Run with a wild crew, they get reckless. Young boy, come up off that neck. Give me that. To the trends. See a lead, be the band.
Good evening and welcome back to another episode of Corner to Copa. I'm here with my co-host, and this is playoff edition. We just completed game 162 of the year, and this is playoff edition. Did we think that we would be able to say that when the show debuted in April? Oh, can you hear me, Coach?
We had a suspicion that they could possibly make a run for the division, but it didn't. It started off good, and then we hit our early to mid-season slump. It kind of looked like things were going downhill. We were soft sellers, and I kind of similar to what the Oakland A's did by rattling off 20-plus straight wins a handful of years ago. You know, the Scott Hatteberg home run after they blew a 7-run lead or whatever it was. It was a large lead to continue the streak, and Moneyball became the movie off it. I mean, I feel like at some point in time, there is going to be something, whether it was a book or documentary or something written about how this team defied literally all odds. At one point, they were 0.2% chance to make the playoffs. 0.2%. Can't even fathom that. I mean, let's be honest too. We needed some help, and we got two large collapses with our own division to, really double down on it. So, but again, the guys had to win. They bought in for each other. You can tell that, they're in it for each other. There's no egos. You got a bunch of young guys now, just the second youngest club in the league. And adjusted payroll is, I think, if not the second or third smallest payroll in baseball too, especially got to be the lowest of all the major markets. But just an incredible year. You want to talk about roller coaster? I mean, man, we were in it. We were up with the highs and we were down with the lows. I can tell you that much. With one hand, we're grasping clouds. On the other hand, we're grasping, 3 feet under of dirt. So it's, what were your overall thoughts, Foster?
We weathered the storm. We watched them, day in and day out from the beginning to the end. And I felt like we're a part of it. Like, I feel like we're every bit as accomplished as the team is. It's really fun. I don't want it to end. Regardless of how the playoffs go, with the amount of inexperience that we have, it's been a great year, and I feel like when they clinched, I was at the Wings game, and they were putting up updates on the jumbotron, and I just kept saying, like, is this really is this real? Like, I've never been so invested in a team before. Like, a lot of the good teams that we've had in all sports were away, down the road. The Pistons haven't been very good for a while. The Tigers have been bad for a while. The Lions, the Lions experiencing that last year was, pretty surreal as well. And what's the other team? And then the Wings haven't been good for a really long time. A lot of our success came when we were like in our high school years, with the Pistons, and the Red Wings were good for a really long time. So yeah, it's surreal, and it's a fun team. It's been a fun team to watch. And I feel like the younger we got, the better and more electric and more optimistic that we got. I feel like I feel like the young guys, they didn't know. I feel like they were too young and too naive to realize like how crazy of a sweat stretch it was, and in the end, it benefited them because they fought through a lot of adversity, a lot of injuries, um, a lot of like, the picture here, Torque. I mean, Torque 3 months ago or 2 months ago was in Toledo, and who knows what was going through his head at that time. There's no way he thought to himself, "Yeah, I'll roll in about August," and it hasn't been a great return for him, but I mean, he's been an integral part of our return. I'm gonna get Veerling and Torque with the beer off here because I just can't do it today. Yeah, I know they've been on a little bit of a bender the last couple of days. Certainly played that way, and your boy, has been playing hard too. So, um, yeah, that's much better. Another one of our goats, another one of our kings, Parker Meadows. But that parlays right into that. Another guy that had a very rough beginning of the year, and he got sent back up, and then had a good series. Went back on the IL, DL. What do they call it? Injured list now. Um, and then
IL.
IL, yeah,
Yeah.
And then came back just in time to be, a lightning rod that we needed. So yeah, I can keep going, but yeah, go. Anything else you want to talk about? Just the season as a whole and the
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll do a little. I'll kind of widen the scope here a little bit before we continue to dive in on some of our personal choices here for some team awards and other stuff involving strictly Detroit. But now, as we almost all but enter the end of the regular season in its entirety, briefly, Rick, he secured the number 1 seed in the American League. They'll have a bye with the number 2 seed Cleveland Guardians, who won the AL Central. The Houston Astros are the 3 seed, winning the AL West. They will host Detroit. And the Baltimore Orioles, holding the number 1 overall wild card, will host the Royals. The National, the Dodgers clinching the number 1 overall seed, winning the NL West. Padres made a nice run at the end, just came up a little bit short. The Phillies will take the 2nd seed along with the second bye. And the Milwaukee Brewers, winning the NL Central, will host 3 teams. Given some makeup games from the Hurricane last week in the South in Atlanta, the Braves and Mets, given the results of their games today, the Braves losing to the Royals, which changed seedings for us along with our loss, and the Mets winning, create a very unique situation where the Braves have 2 makeup games against the Mets, and the Diamondbacks do not own both tiebreakers. The Braves had one against the Diamondbacks. So the scenario is, if they split the doubleheader, they're both in, and Atlanta would essentially get the tiebreaker because they're already 1 game ahead in the season series. And the only way the Diamondbacks now can get in is if one of them wins both games. So we do have mutual baseball on what would be on the old playoff schedule, game 163, a play-in. This is essentially kind of the same thing right now, but this is kind of how it's shaping up. So I don't know if there's going to be a push in the playoff schedule, because tomorrow would be the off day for everyone that's playing on Tuesday. Everyone would start on Tuesday. So we don't know what will happen. All we know is the Tigers are getting on a plane tonight, and they're heading to Houston to face what's going to many of us look a little eerie, looking at the past being Justin Verlander, and bringing our guys the present and the future for a playoff series. So kind of a full circle moment for a lot of Tiger fans that are old enough that grew up with the last run of the team back in the early 2010s with JV. So this is going to be I think this is a matchup that benefits Detroit. There's some good pitching on both sides, but they carry some veteranship with some guys and a lot of playoff experience, and guys that AJ Hinch managed in the controversial World Series year and the year before, where they won 95 or 100 plus games each year. Bregman, Kyle Tucker, and Altuve kind of lead the way for them. They've got some veterans as well. So this is going to be a very intriguing matchup, and I feel like everything that's happened with the Tigers this year and getting in, we're not necessarily, quote, America's team. We don't need to be America's team. We're playing the underdog role here. We had no shot. We played with house money, and we won on the longest odds possible. And there's really nothing to lose for us right now. Yeah, losing would suck, but 2 months ago we pretty much were 0.2% chance of getting in, pretty much written off. Okay, let's see if the young guys can do. Well, here's what they've done, and we're in now. So there's really no reason to think why, unless it's completely flops, and we get swept or whatever, and we just lay a goose egg, which I really don't think is going to be the case. I mean, this has a lot of the 2006 team written all over it. A little bit different, obviously, but, a lot of not a household name guys on either team. We had Bonderman and we got Pudge. There were some interesting guys that we ended up getting that year from the 04 team, which lost a bunch of games. This guy's, not a lot of household names either. Riley Green, Scooble's kind of been a name that's been out there for the last couple of years. And Tarek Scooble, not counting some of the prospects that became suddenly viable and valuable and rising stock until we called them up this year. But, from game one, we had a little bit of buzz, but hey, doesn't matter now. They did it. They paid their dues. They earned it. And this is going to be exciting. So, it's taken literally 2 days. I don't know about you. It's taken me 2 days to really sink in that we're in. We're playing October baseball for the first time in 10 years. You could see it today in the booth, Jason Benetti, and even in the celebration. I mean, this guy is so thankful for the transition he's made coming from Chicago to Detroit. And you can just tell the players, the front office, the stadium personnel there, it's special. It really is. So, and sucks that Benetti won't be able to make any more game calls now that it's all national. But, they got all the momentum right now. This is the hottest team in baseball. And I think to a degree, this is the most dangerous team that no one really wants to see right now. So bringing it back into scope here. Any of your thoughts, anything on the wider scope of the league at all before we dive into some of the other specific Tiger items?
Yeah. So I mean, the storyline is there. I mean, that it's crazy. It has a Stafford coming back to play the Lions-esque feel to it, except for Houston has the home field advantage, correct?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And
we were the last wild card, so all 3 games played to Houston.
You said all 3 of them are in Houston?
Yep.
Oh, I did not know that's how it worked. But the return of AJ Hinch to Houston. It's gonna be interesting. The Houston usually plays us pretty tough. I think they definitely beat up on us in Detroit earlier this year. I think JV even got a win. I want to say it was on Mother's Day as well. But it's going to be interesting. And like you said, we're playing with house money. We defied the odds, and I hope the last 2 days, we've kind of been taking it easy. So it feels like we kind of took our foot off the gas, but obviously we're going to have to ramp back up for the playoffs. And this team did deserve a little bit of a rest because they literally had to fight and play every game like it was our last for a while because we kind of put ourselves in a situation where we did not have much margin for error. So we're going to get to our first break though. All right. What are the items that we are covering today?
Well, I think we'll knock the first one off real quick here. The roster. I think with Maeda starting today and another below average, poor performance, what do you want to call it? I think it's obvious that he gets left off the roster now that we have Jackson Jobe up, who basically took Shelby Miller's spot earlier when he was DFA'd. But and I think you would leave him off and keep Wenciel Perez in. So quickly running down the list. This is pretty much the gist of guys that we've had over the last few weeks or so. Obviously, with Joe being the newest member, more recently, a lot of these other guys were called up in late July, early August. So they've been around for about, anywhere between 6 and 8 to 10 weeks. So, you got Scooble, Montero, Mize, Olson, Herder, Jobe, Vest, Hannafy, Gunther, Holton, Foley, Brisky. I might be missing one in there. And then we got Meadows, Green, Carpenter, Vierling, Sweeney, Rogers, Dingler, Torkelson, McKinstry, Colt, Ibanez, Young, and Wenciel Perez would be how that shapes out to be. I really don't think there's any really controversy there, do you?
No, that's not. You pretty much covered it. So who would be? So the playoff roster is expanded, or how does?
It's still the same. It's the same 26 man from the regular season. The call-ups were only allowed to give you 2 more spots. So they've been playing this month with 28 players total. So now it goes back down to the regular 26 because they added one from last year, was a new change to the total roster size for the regular season playoffs.
So outside of Maeda, who would be the other person not making the roster?
Well, you got other guys on the 40 man. There really isn't. I mean, they've had everyone with them playing. I think Malloy Hunter would be left off for right now. But they do have what they call a backup squad. MLB designated a backup squad of players. The other players that are not on the active roster, but they're on the 40 man, are eligible to replace someone in a series if someone becomes injured and cannot play anymore. However, that's the only change in that series that can be made for that player. So that's kind of how that would work. So yeah, Justin Hunter, Malloy, and I would assume, Maeda would be the other one out too. So those 2 guys had been on the active roster in the last 2 months. So those would be the 2 that would be taken off to leave the remaining guys that were mentioned.
All right. And you mind breaking down for the American League playoffs what the matchups will be?
Yeah, so the Yankees and Guardians will receive a bye. They will get a nice little break here. Houston will host us, and then Baltimore will be hosting Kansas City, which I kind of expect that to be a fairly higher scoring series. After we finished the week of playing Baltimore and then ending in Camden Yards last weekend, they got back a bunch of guys from their injured list that we had not seen really. And it was a plethora of starters. It was 4 bats and 1 lefty relief pitcher that came back. So they look like a different team, man. The second they started, they played the Yankees right after us. They put up a bunch of runs. I mean, their offense is clicking right now. So it's going to be interesting to see. So yeah, they got back all within like a few days of each other, but earlier this week. First baseman Ryan Mountcastle, second baseman Ramon Urias, third baseman Jordan Westberg, left fielder Heston Kirkshad, and left-handed pitcher Danny Colon, who I think was an all-star about a year or 2 ago, if I'm not mistaken. If not, he was up there. So, I mean, this is a lot of starters. We were waiting for some arms ourselves and Kerry Carpenter, to a degree, maybe not for injury, but, Parker and Torque went down. but not all at the same time. Sure, they overlapped a little bit, but those guys were out. Some of those guys were out for a significant amount of time. So now that they're back and they're healthy, they might be a little bit stronger than when we had seen them and took their business. But, that's the way it works. But that's the AL matchup. And then as far as the National League, the Dodgers and Phillies will get their byes respectively. And the Milwaukee Brewers will be hosting one of the three remaining teams that are still in the hunt between Atlanta, New York, and Arizona. And then the Padres will be hosting the other series, also awaiting the outcome of both the makeup games tomorrow in Atlanta between the Braves and the Mets. All games starting right now, tentatively on Tuesday. Everyone, it looks like, is going to play pretty much the same days of the week for this series, weather permitting, of course.
Of course. And we're going to get to a break and then I guess talk free agents. Is it too soon to talk free agents? Well, hold on. We'll take this break first.
Yeah.
So it's funny that it's funny that about a month ago I had started inquiring about free agency. At the time, I don't know what our odds were or how far we were back, but it seemed appropriate to kind of start looking at it in that direction. But I've definitely tapered off doing that as of now. I don't know if it's like a superstitious thing to you don't want to look too far ahead. So I haven't really had a chance to really look into free agents and possible targets. But who are you looking at as desired targets for the winter time?
So I was kind of poking around MLB's website on free agent lists, and they gave some general market value. Obviously it's going to be difficult to really closely project what any of these guys would be offered next year, but they're giving an average in consideration to a range. And there were just mostly some names I think we've touched on, maybe one or two of them for sure. We have going back to the trade deadline originally when it came up, but there were some other names too. I kind of pulled some numbers, what they were making this year, along with what the market average would possibly be for the following year. So we can start with the ones that I pulled some of the financials for. Kind of leading the way is current St. Louis Cardinal first baseman Paul Goldschmidt. He was making $26 million this year. The website produces a market average of about a little over $12 million next year is what his targeted range, give or take, will be. Also first baseman, current Met Pete Alonso, currently making $20.5 million. Market value right now it's projected almost at $30 million, at $29.5 million a year, which I think back in July I mentioned, I'm like, just give him 3 years, $30 million. So it kind of is a little bit just underneath that average. I honestly just randomly threw out there, just on a gut feel, nothing with any stats to, formulate that. But shortstop Willy Adames, currently in the Brewers, currently making $12.25 million. Market value is looking to jump or double pretty much at $21.5 million. And current right fielder Oriole Anthony Santander, who is making $11.7 million this year, projected to make around $17.9 next year's market value average. And third baseman and former Tiger, current Diamondback Eugenio Suarez, making $11 million this year with an average market projected at $12.6 million. The only caveat with him is there is a club option that could pick him up for $15 million for 2025. So if they turn that down, then he becomes a restricted free agent. So we'll start with those, and then the others that I have listed there we can mention in the second half of this.
So yeah, you just couldn't wait to replace my boy Torkelson, huh?
Hey, I mean, I think let's be honest. We're going into the offseason here. Second base is the only spot right now in stone that is set for next year. Cole Keith, it's his spot. That's not going anywhere anytime soon. As we said back earlier in the year, 28 million reasons why that's going to be the case. And then right now you technically still have, because Torque's going to be a free agent again after a 1 year deal. I don't want to say another because it was only one after his original deal. He was making a little over $800,000, which was practically the bare minimum for his MLB experience service time. So you technically will have first, third, and maybe shortstop open. Now, I will say, before we get into any other positions, I believe, and, as of right now, I think Sweeney has the spot heading into opening day next year. I think we're fairly in agreement on that, but, who knows? Maybe there's a guy that comes down in the offseason that, people aren't offering to, and his value drops, and he all of a sudden potentially in a very high value situation in terms of, low cost, high reward kind of, trade-off there. But yeah, as of right now, I think one for sure, maybe two. What do you think?
No, yeah, I think the Sweeney situation is going to be interesting. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see what they decide to do with Baez. But
I think they're going to cut him. I think there's no chance they're not going to cut him now. I mean, they can try and find a trade partner for them for another bad contract, but at this point, with what's happened over the last 8 weeks, I don't see why you don't move forward and cutting him. It just makes more sense now.
Yeah, it seems solidified. I'm certainly at peace with where his legacy as a Tiger is, and it's an easier pill to swallow now that the team is in the playoffs, and all is well that ends well, and the last 8 weeks has ended pretty well. So yeah, it's crazy to think that Flaherty trade. I certainly did not expect all of those things to happen post that trade, and we're going to reap benefits for that trade. Years on end too. So I'll be right back. Take over. I'll be right back.
All right. So yeah, ideally in terms of free agency, if we were looking at one for sure and going from there, I would say I would love, Goldschmidt comes with a lot of playoff experience. Guy's been in multiple playoffs. He's been in World Series. He's won World Series, I believe. He's been there, done that. Now his only burning desire really to stay in at that point in career is to, win one more, just because, if he feels like he's good, his body's good, he can still produce, then it's worth going, give it another shot and finding on with another team that is just looking to add some pieces and help round their team out. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say we would be looking to round this team out per se, because we definitely lacked a decent amount of power throughout the year. That became very evident with the team that we rolled out on day one, and large part to a degree. Now we hit better power numbers post All-Star break, but in terms of a legitimate guy, 2-3 guys that, when they step up to the plate, you got to put some respect on the name and their power, because that they can drive the ball out, drive it into the gaps, bring runners in scoring position and runners on home, and really make life difficult for an opposing pitching staff. So in that sense, guys like Goldschmidt, Pete Alonso, and of course, Alonso's been an all-star 3 in the last 4 years. He's hit at least 25 or more home runs over the last 4 years and 100 plus RBIs. He had turned down a few extensions from the Mets. So it looks like he will be largely going to the market, a free agent. I've seen some info that the Mets may make another run at him while he hits the open market. And then to shift gears with Willy Adames, the shortstop, I don't know if he can play third, but obviously if we're set with Sweeney, then there'd be no point in really bringing him in. I just don't think Jace Young is really ready to take on an everyday role at third base right now. I think he'd benefit from playing a good little backup role, unless they think that him being down in Toledo to start and getting regular reps, regular ABs, as a starter would be more beneficial than him just riding the pine to start next year. And then I threw out Santander just because, I like his game. He is a power guy. He kind of goes unnoticed a bit, especially in that lineup right now at Baltimore. You're not really thinking of, someone that's, of him as a Tiger killer. But boy, when he played us in that week in 6 games in like 10 days or whatever it was, that dude, him and Gunnar killed us in like 2 or 3 games. Santander had some massive hits in those 2 series, including a home run in Baltimore. The guy is he's a lefty bat, I believe. He swings lefty, plays outfield. I know we're pretty heavy in the outfield right now. But, that's a certain possibility. And then obviously Eugenio Suarez, who we're all familiar with going back to the Nick Castellanos days. He's turned himself into a nice power guy. Got a nice deal in Seattle, I believe, or Cincinnati before getting traded to Seattle. Now he's with Arizona. He's got another power guy. He's going to give you 20, 90, 25, 100 potentially. So I think those are nice power numbers that we can rely on, that when we put him in the lineup, we're not necessarily having to worry about pinch hitting just because we're going to another, lefty, righty, righty, lefty. However, that seems to be the path that AJ has really grasped onto. So I don't know how much that'll change next year, but I think bringing in 2 bats in the lineup, especially the infield, will really help round out the guys that we have now and make us even a more lethal team next year. But some of the other names that were on the list that are free agents, Anthony Rizzo of the Yankees, he has an team option. So we don't know if that'll be picked up. And then obviously we have guys like Justin Verlander, Dodgers outfielder Teoscar Hernandez, Alex Bregman, Josh Bell, who was traded earlier this year at the deadline, current Brave DH Marcell Ozuna, who also has a club option, and pitchers like Max Fried, Jack Flaherty, Shane Bieber of the Guardians. We've also got some other veterans in Jock Peterson, Travis d'Arnaud, Walker Buehler, and recently named All-Star in the NL for the Marlins before being traded to the Padres, lefty Tanner Scott. Just another lefty potential option for the bullpen. But those are just kind of names that I saw in passing I thought were intriguing. I would be surprised if we get more than 2 of anyone on that list, honestly. And then I do think the path going forward is you get a first and third baseman, and you got Colton Sweeney up the middle with McKinstry playing, nice solid backup to both. And then, who knows what happens with Ibanez, because he was on a 1-year deal himself. So there's certainly some uncertainties going forward in that situation in terms of who would be replaced and not returning. But I do think there will be a couple names that either, if they have options, will start down on the year in Toledo, or if they decide to move on from some of the veterans, not really veterans, but guys that are on the roster now with a free agent. That's still to be seen yet.
All right, we're going to get on a break, and I'm going to discuss some of the free agency stuff that you talked about.
All right.
So, yes, I second your sentiments about Jace Young and the fact that he's probably not ready for a full-time role. It's got to be difficult to start a brand new position, to start your year. He was a top-notch, top-tier second baseman, and he had to move over to, with Cole Keith being solidified as the second baseman of the future. So, you think that it might affect the bat a little bit, just having to put that extra focus on the defensive side of things. He had a pretty good year hitting in AAA this year. The one thing that has not happened for him yet is the power. He still has 0 home runs. He's played about 2 months. He has very good plate discipline. He's not going to chase out of the zone, but he's yet to really start driving the ball. I think that will come with time and with just the overall comfort of just being in the major leagues and playing a longer season and all that type of stuff. So, You still there?
Yeah, we're good.
That was weird. Okay, so yeah, he may benefit with spending a little bit more time in AAA. And then you brought up Alex Bregman, who I'm not going to sing too high of praises right now because he's he's an op right now. But he was one of the guys that I had circled on my list as a possible target in the offseason. He obviously plays third base, which is Jace Young's position. But we could only benefit from having another big bat in our lineup. He's a guy that doesn't hit for actually. I mean, he's hit for pretty decent power, but he's a contact hitter. He doesn't strike out very often, and it would just bring more balance to our lineup. But he's an AJ Hinch guy in every way of the sense. Obviously, he played with AJ Hinch, but he's a great defender, and like I said, he has elite plate discipline. And see, I said I wasn't going to say a whole lot about him, but I did anyways. Outside of that, Santander, like you said, yeah. If you put that bat in the middle of our lineup, that's a guy that hit 40 home runs this year, I think.
I'll double check here. I've already got him up.
He's got 102 RBIs. I do know that, but yeah, I think he hit a bunch of home runs this year, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, you gotta. He's a guy that is
44 home runs.
Yeah, that's insane. But he's a guy that he's 29 years old, but he's still ascending, and his statistics are getting better year by year. So I think this is the perfect time to grab a guy like that. He's going to bring some veteran, that veteran presence to the team, and just produce a lot of runs. I mean, can you imagine how many more RBIs that guy can have with guys like Cole Keith and Riley Green and Fearling and Kerry Carpenter setting the table for him? I mean, that we saw how electric a grand slam can be in the ball game earlier today. Although we didn't win the ball game. I mean, we got back just like that. We were down 5-0, and then it was 5-4 at the drop of a hat. So yeah, so another lefty big bat that can utilize that short porch would be nice. But having
he's been healthy too. Last 3 years, he's played in 150 plus games the last 3 years, and he's got 105 total runs in the last 3 years.
Yep, and yeah, durability is very integral, especially in a season that has 162 games. So, but yeah, outside of that, bringing in another outfielder would kind of push Malloy out of the picture. Unfortunately, he has had an opportunity to play a lot this year and really, just display what he can do. And his time will come. We don't really know. The one thing I can say is this is a team that have fallen in love with, and it's one of those things that like we do want to make improvements to it, but in order to make improvements, some of these guys that are on this team right now may not be around next year, like maybe an Ibanez or this might be end of the road for Zach McKinstry as well. So this is why you have to enjoy the moment while we have it, because there'll never be another team like this. There's going to be changes down the road. So we really have to embrace what we have right now, because look at I don't think Shelby Miller thought that he would be playing his last game last week. So but yet and still he's every bit a part of this experience and the roller coaster as everybody else. So but yeah, anything else you want to say before we wrap?
No, I think quickly we'll run down some awards real quick. I'll rattle off categories and then we'll just kind of you and I will back and forth it on each one. So we got team MVP, pitcher of the year, offensive or positional player of the year. We'll select one Gold Glover and one super utility, which was largely just going to be between McKinstry, Ibanez, and Vierling, and then most improved. If we want to go backwards on this here, we'll start with most improved. I got to give it to, it's close. It really is. But I think most improved has got to be for me, Parker Meadows. I mean, with Colt Keith being a close second. I don't think there's a wrong answer either way. It's just, Parker he's become a 5-tool guy. So, and what he did and coming back up, and he got hurt after a couple games and then came back and continued like he didn't miss a beat. And they pretty much rode his energy batting either leadoff or ninth, which is crazy, into that wave where they really got hot, in August.
Yeah, I kind of figured you go in that direction. Who I'm more so thinking about guys that like played full seasons last year. But I think the sleeper one is maybe Matt Vierling. He had a similar year, but he definitely hit for more power this year. And I don't know, he's just been such a constant and steady pace guy the whole year. Like I feel like he didn't have too many ebbs and flows of hot times, cold times. I feel like he was just super consistent and I mean I think he played. I think he did get some days off, but I mean he was an Iron Man. I think he was physically healthy for the entire year. And I know a lot of that doesn't have to do with the improvements, but I think he's one of the guys that kind of gets overlooked in how good the team has been down the stretch. Is the fact that you can always depend on him day to day to be consistent and ready to work, whether he's in any of the three outfield positions, played a decent amount of third base, and even played first base. We saw that against the Royals.
Yeah, it was definitely within the last 2 weeks for sure. Yeah.
It was the game that when I came over. When I came over to watch the game.
Trying to find the day game. Yeah.
But
I'm just trying to find. Yeah, he played the second most games on the team this year. 144 games, only behind Cole Keith's 148.
Oh wow, Cole Keith played a lot of games too. And we have a little delay, which is why there's a little bit of a delay between our responses. So let's wrap the show and then just do an award show, because it may drag a little bit if we go through all the awards.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yep. But we'll let you, once the times get posted for the playoffs, we'll let everyone know and stay tuned on the socials. Baby, we're in. The Gritty Tigers are in. Foster, go ahead and sign us off.
All right. Please subscribe to Bleachers to Speakers on YouTube. I appreciate everybody that tuned in today. We had one of our higher live view totals. Live view totals. I want to say I appreciate all the supporters that have watched and listened this year, because you have been a part of this road every bit as much as we have. And tell a friend to tell a friend. We went through the whole year. We did a show weekly, and we saw some ups and also some downs, but we're up right now, and we're just going to ride out this playoff party to the end. Please subscribe to Corner to Copa on all audio aggregators, And yeah, share this around, man, because it's been a really fun year. But we're not done. We obviously got an award show, and we're going to talk about free agency and all that other good stuff as well. So we are signing out.
See you in Houston.